Okay. We called the meeting to order at 4 o'clock. Can we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Or Kate, you've got something?
Yep, I got some.
okay.
I'd like to move to adopt the agenda, but removing item 8E.
From Audit and Finance.
Yep, from audit and finance.
Julie, you got that? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Oh, and to approve consent agenda.
And to
items.
approve the consent agenda items.
Thank you.
Yes, that
And
is
I will
part of the
second.
motion.
Consent, Ms. Coates seconds. Any questions? All right. You ready? Please cast your votes.
Which item is 8E? I'm sorry.
It was an Audit and Finance Committee item, the committee membership item.
All right. So I guess I'm actually logged in, but did not have the opportunity to vote electronically. So I vote yes.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Mack. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So move. Second.
Any questions? All right, please cast your votes.
So I vote yes.
Thank you, Reverend Mack. Okay, that motion passes. We'll have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Ms. Coates. Okay.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all and welcome everybody. At this time, we have special recognitions. Ms. Denny?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Waters. Good evening, Chairman Mack, Vice Chair Waters, trustees, and Superintendent Kennedy. This evening, on behalf of the district, I have the distinct honor and privilege of recognizing our Board of Trustees members who are completing their terms of service this week. To express our deep appreciation and gratitude for your service in this short amount of time tonight is not enough. But please know how incredibly grateful we are for your steadfast leadership, for your commitment and your dedication. When I call your name, please stand and meet Superintendent Kennedy in front of the dais along with Deputy Superintendent Huggins. I'm going to give them a second to get in place in front of the dais for photos.
Citation, Ms. Denny.
I know. Mr. Kennedy and Ms. Huggins have a small token of appreciation to present each of you with. First is First, Reverend Mack on Zoom. We would like to recognize you. Even though you're not able to join us tonight, we're all terribly sad about that. But we'd like to thank you for your outstanding leadership over the past 8 years and chairmanship over the past 4. You've led CCSD through incredibly challenging times. Your work and leadership have contributed greatly to the CCSD community. We're incredibly thankful for the time, dedication, and commitment that you have displayed as you've ensured positive student outcomes for all of our students. On behalf of CCSD, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Reverend Mack, when you're back, we have a plaque to present you with and
Thank you so much.
next, I'd like to recognize Ms. Kate Darby. Ms. Darby, thank you for your outstanding leadership over the past 8 years. Your dedication and service have been demonstrated in your roles as former board chair and committee of the whole chair during your tenure on the board. Thank you for your commitment to the students and families of CCSD. On behalf of the district, thank you for your service. Next, I'd like to recognize Ms. Cindy Von Coates. Ms. Von Coates, thank you for your outstanding leadership over the past 12 years. You've demonstrated steadfast service and commitment through your longevity on the board and in your roles as former board chair and as a member of the Audit and Finance Committee. On behalf of the district, thank you for your service.
Some really special music coming from a first back here.
Dr. Frazier?
That was her intro. That was your intro.
Dr. Frazier, thank you for your outstanding leadership and dedication over the past 2 years.
Make sure you get my t-shirt here.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your dedication and commitment to the students and families of CCSD. On behalf of the district, thank you for your service. We'd also like to recognize Ms. Erica Coakley in her absence. We thank her for her service over the past 2 years and for her work in support of the students and families of CCSD. On behalf of the district, thank you. Next, we'd like to recognize Dr. Kristen French. Dr. French, thank you for your outstanding leadership and dedication over the past 2 years. Thank you for your service and leadership on the board governance and student outcomes ad hoc committee, and for your commitment and dedication to developing the board goals and guardrails. We'd like to invite Ms. Pinkney Reese, who is a token of thanks for your service with the development and revision of CCSD policy. Next, we'd like to recognize Ms. Joyce Green. Ms. Green, thank you for your outstanding leadership and dedication over the past 4 years and your service as chair of the Audit and Finance Committee. While Ms. Williams has already presented you with a token of thanks for your leadership on the Audit and Finance Committee, we'd like to call her up now for photos. On behalf of the district, thank you for your service. Last, but certainly not least, we'd like to recognize Miss Lauren Herderich. Ms. Herderich. Thank you for your outstanding leadership and dedication over the past 2 years, and for your dedicated work with the goals and guardrails. As chair of the Board Government Student Outcomes Ad Hoc Committee, I'd also like to welcome Michelle Simmons, who has a token of thanks for your service with strategic education. On behalf of the district, thank you for your service. If all of our trustees could come to the front one last time to gather for a group photo,
Oh, gosh.
I would be incredibly grateful. No, no.
Yeah, you got the photo. I'm still behind the table so we can get this logo from the table. There you go. Step down. That'd be great.
Put the flow of the ring behind you. That one. No, leave the plant. Leave the plant.
Boy, it was
Yes, leave the plant.
Leave the flag.
Leave the plant. Move the flow of it. Each other.
Oh.
There you go. And then move the plant over just a little bit.
Balance is key.
All right, that's beautiful. Look right this way, please.
What's that little piece of paper?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you can sit here. I'll move back.
You'll sit up there. You're perfect. I just want to make sure everybody. Okay. Look this way one more time and there we go. Thank you so much. Okay.
I'm ready to go home, Courtney. Let's move this on.
So thank you very much, Ms. Denny. So I do have a couple of quick thoughts. And so that's a term that I started using, I think about 2 weeks ago. It was addressing to a team here in the district of staff people that have been working on doing some extraordinary work. And as I thought about this a few minutes ago, it's appropriate. And that term was, it has been an honor to labor with you all, especially in the last 10 months. The work that you all have done on getting to the board goals and the board guardrails to position the district for some great things. So the 4 years before that, as the finance person, working with those of you all that were on the finance and led the finance department. So thank you all very much for your support over the years. And again, for the last 10 months, this is almost emotional for me, what I've gone through with you all because of what I want to see what happens in the district. And it's actually a continuation of my mother's vision here in the state of South Carolina, and to make sure that our kids are educated. So thank y'all very much for that.
Sure.
Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy.
Is Reverend Mack on the?
Yes, sir.
So just want to take this opportunity to acknowledge all of my fellow board members and colleagues that have served with for the past several years, and to thank everyone for their dedication, the time and the role that they play in making timely decisions for the students in the school district. Thank you for everyone that chaired different subcommittees that guided in various areas. Everyone did an excellent job and moving the needle for students throughout the Charleston County School District. And I'd like to also acknowledge the fact of the dedicated staff members that we have, to those that have worked in various areas to help assist us in making decisions that's best for students. Thank you to the staff for everything that they have done in helping to guide us into this next phase, into this next chapter, and changing what's possible with the educational system in Charleston County. I want to especially thank Julie and Trudy for putting up with my timely calls and making sure that things are done timely. Thank you so much for all that you do, and to all of the other staff members in the different departments. I don't want to begin calling names, so I don't want to miss anyone, but you all played a very pivotal role in helping this board of trustees make decisions that's best for students. I do want to acknowledge Mr. Baroe for his passion that he has given toward construction and building sound educational buildings in our district, to bettering students and making sure that opportunities and choices are there. Thank you, Mr. Baroe. To Ms. Huggins, thank you so much for your passion for what you are doing and leading the curve and changing those things that are possible within the district. And to Ms. Simmons and especially to our CFO, our new CFO, Don, I think you have found a very great replacement to carry on the financial work, which is very, very, very an issue within the district. To Dr. Williams, thank you so much for what you are doing, what you're currently doing with the scholars. You've said the term scholars throughout the entire time, and we have definitely latched on to that. But thank you for the great work that you're doing. And to all of the others, I don't want to keep calling names because I may get choked up, just a mere fact that I'm exiting, but the board. But I just want to say again, thank you so much to Ms. Reese, our general counsel. Thank you for the work that you're doing within our district. And again, to my fellow board members, I just want to say thank you so much for your support. And Mr. Kennedy, keep moving the needle forward for our students, and we will see great progress moving forward. Mr. Mazik, thank you. You have definitely kept us intact with the parliamentary procedures on the board and making sure that we are making the correct decisions when moving policies, when moving agenda items, when making sure that our motions and our actions are correct within line. Thank you so much for that. And again, thank you to everyone for allowing me to serve as your board chair for these last few years.
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, we're going to entertain a motion to convene an executive session.
So move.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Yeah, we'll go in the back. Reverend Mack, we'll call you.
Thank you.
Kenny gets with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. No problem. All right, we're gonna reconvene in open session. Item 6A.
I move to approve the forwarding of a formal complaint to the South Carolina Department of Education related to the attached contract teacher.
All right, properly moved by Ms. Darby, seconded by Ms. Green. Any questions on item 6A? All right, please cast your votes. Reverend Mack, how do you vote? Where is he back? I can't,
I'm not sure.
no, I don't see him yet.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna get back on right
Okay.
away.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, that item passes. Item 6B.
I moved to expel the student for 365 days from the date of the incident.
Second.
All right, moved by Ms. Darby, seconded by Ms. Coates and Dr. French. Any questions?
Oh, I didn't say
No,
anything.
Ms. Green. Ms. Green. Ms. Coates. Ms. Coates. Okay. Please cast your votes. All right, please take a look and make sure your vote's properly represented. That item passes. Item 6C.
I move to expel the student for 365 days from the date of the incident with services.
Second.
All right, properly moved by Ms. Darby, seconded by Ms. Coates. Anyone have any questions? All right, please cast your votes. All right, please take a look and make sure you're represented. That item passes. Okay. Item 6D.
I move to place the student at Daniel Jenkins Academy and on board probation for the remainder of the school year.
All right, second, moved by Ms. Darby, seconded by Ms. Green. Does anyone have any questions? All right, please cast your votes. All right. Okay. Okay, great. All right, that item carries. Item 7A is public comments. We don't have any in-person public comments. We did receive 2 online submissions regarding inclement weather and I guess a question around policy JKA. All right, but all the board members have received those 2, so you can feel free to review them. Audit and finance, item 8A, Ms. Green.
We have presentations for items A, B, and C. Donna, make the introductions.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Green. So the district underwent a payroll and HR audit for the fiscal year 2022. Our external auditors are here, Elliot Davis, and they'll be reviewing the audit results. Once they conclude, we'll talk about the corrective action plans and where we are as a district.
Good evening, everyone. I'm gonna, let's see. Am I able to share my screen, or do you all have handouts to review, or should I just discuss it?
You can share your screen, Austin.
Okay. Are you all able to see what I'm sharing?
Yes.
Great. Well, I appreciate y'all giving us the opportunity to discuss the results of the Payroll and Human Resources internal audit. In addition to myself, I also have Jay Breitz and Amy Myers from Elliott Davis on the call. We're all part of the internal audit team here at Elliott Davis, and they were all integral to getting this work completed. So I want to briefly go over kind of the scope of what we reviewed during this project. We'll discuss the process for that review and then a high-level summary of what we found. So to begin, the scope, as mentioned, was primarily payroll and HR functions, and that the review period was for calendar year 2021. Some of those processes that were in scope for the review, you can see listed here, reviews and approvals for time cards, salary increases, changes, etc. GL reconciliations related to payroll, employee listing reconciliations, personnel record retention, budgets versus actual reconciliations, payroll and payroll tax accruals, health insurance refunds, tax withholdings, IRS 940 and 941 forms, and then payroll system access. So these are just a few of the areas that were included within the scope of the review, and kind of to discuss the process of that review. So as you can see here, we are operating as internal audit. So our goal is to hopefully detect potential issues or inefficiencies prior to an external auditor operating in tandem with management to hopefully detect some issues before that. So our initial process is to identify what the areas for review are. In this case, in 2019, I believe, or leading into 2020, we performed a risk assessment for CCSD and outlined a 3-year internal audit plan. We have performed a few of those internal audits thus far, and for this year, payroll and HR were one of the key audit areas that fell into the schedule for this year. So that's how this area was identified. To begin that process, we performed walkthroughs, interviews with key stakeholders at the district to determine the processes, the policies that are in place, some of the best practices, and essentially what should be happening for the payroll and HR department. From there, we dove deeper into those processes and did what we call detail testing to determine if things are operating the way they should based on those district policies, best practices, et cetera. And upon completion of that testing, we issue a summary report that is intended primarily for internal management to identify those areas that could use additional attention or corrective action plans. And we've worked closely with management to assist with those remediation efforts and provide oversight for the corrective action plans that were in place. So the results of this audit, again, there are more details that can be provided in the full report to internal management, which can be shared if you request that. But overall, the rating we have here, satisfactory with recommendation. That's our category for what is defined as not revealing, in our judgment, any significant deficiencies in the design or operation of the internal control structure, no significant lacks of compliance with internal district policies, or any process, item, or element requiring a significant adjustment. And while internal controls appear to be sufficient to minimize risk, this category includes recommendations to strengthen controls already in place. So essentially, no material issues noted. However, there are some observations and recommendations that we made, which are listed here, including observations and recommendations for the terminated employee offboarding process and the timeliness of that process, the employee listing reconciliation review and approval process, pay rate, salary change, and time card reviews and approvals, payroll, HR policy reviews and approvals, payroll system audit trail capabilities, and the PIBA refund calculation process. And finally, as we noted before, we worked closely with district personnel to establish and monitor the execution of the corrective action plans. Those have already been underway, and I believe most of them are either completed or are in the final stages. So I can let the appropriate folks talk to that, but those are essentially the results of this audit. And we are happy to answer any questions or feedback that you'll have at this time.
Thank you. Board members, do you have any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Next,
You're
B.
very welcome.
Shauna, you said B also, another presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Waters. So the next audit we have is, we have Emily here, our external auditor from Green Finney, who did the FY22 financial audit. This is an audit of our entire financial condition and outlook and all of our transaction history. So Emily will provide the results. I'm very proud of this audit. I'm going to just drop that right there. Emily.
Yes, we should all be very proud of this audit. The district has performed very well. As I will go through, let me share my screen. Okay. So again, I'm Emily Sobczak. I'm with Green Finney Colley, and I oversaw the financial statement audit for the district for the year ended June 30th, 2022. We do like to remind you that the financial statements of the district are the district's responsibility. And so, it's very important that you are performing regular reviews of your policies and procedures to ensure that they're best addressing the risks that you're facing. And that will allow you to mitigate the risk of misstatement in your financial information. And that, of course, is important not only at year end for audit purposes, but also as you're receiving information throughout the year and making strategic decisions on behalf of the district, it's important that you can rely on that information. So our responsibility as your auditor is to audit the financial information provided and issue an opinion based on our audit. We are issuing an unmodified opinion again this year. That opinion provides reasonable assurance that the financial statements are materially correct. So it is important to remember that a financial statement audit does not involve us looking at every single transaction that occurred during the year. Rather, we're using some professional judgment and considering materiality as we plan our procedures. So looking at your general fund results, your total fund balance in the general fund increased by 13.7 million, bringing total fund balance to 159 million as of June 30th. Included in that fund balance is 7.2 million that's classified as non-spendable. That primarily includes prepaid insurance premiums. So the funds have already left the district, but they are for expenses that will be recognized in fiscal 23. You then have committed fund balance of 72.8 million. This is based on the board policy to commit funds as your operating reserve, so for future needs. You then have assigned fund balance of 41.6 million. This is also assigned by the board, and that includes amounts that are included in the fiscal 23 budget appropriations, as well as additional funding that you've elected to set aside for the ESSER stabilization and sustainability. Looking at your unassigned fund balance, that was 37.4 million as of June 30th. That represents 6% of your 2022 actual expenditures. So that is in compliance with your board policy, which states that you should have at least 1/2 month of operating expenditures included in your unassigned fund balance. And that's in addition to the 1.5 months that are in your committed fund balance. a number of different reasons why it is important to maintain a healthy fund balance. One significant reason, which is especially important now as you're receiving the additional ESSER funding and creating some new programs that you may want to continue after that funding runs out. Having a healthy general fund balance allows you to maintain some of those services as you identify new funding sources to fund them. You also need fund balance to help you with your cash flows. As you know, your property tax revenue, which is a significant revenue source, doesn't really start coming in until the very end of the calendar year. And so having a healthy fund balance allows you to meet your cash flows for the second half of the calendar year and limits the amount of short-term financing that you need to issue in order to meet those needs. So let's look at your general fund revenues. Revenues were $588.5 million for fiscal 22. Again, of course, the bulk is in property taxes and state revenues. That was an increase of 6% from the prior year. And that increase is primarily related to increased assessed values, which led to increased property tax revenues. You also came in about 2% better than budget. And the general fund reports transfers in, which is another financing source of $17.8 million, including EIA funding of $12.4 million and special revenue and food service indirect costs of $5.4 million. On the expenditure side, we had expenditures of $591.5 million for the year. That was a 3% increase from the prior year, and that increase was primarily in your salaries and benefits. Personnel costs, of course, make up the vast majority of your budget, and so that's typically where any significant swings are going to be. Your expenditures were 4% below the budgeted expenditures for the year. Now, if we look at all of your governmental funds combined, so your general fund plus your special revenue and EIA funds, food service, debt service, and capital projects, you're looking at total revenues and net other financing sources for the district of just over $1 billion and expenditures just under that. So that's a lot to keep up with. And you do rely on your finance team to do that. And as we'll talk about in just a few minutes, they're really doing an excellent job. But first, let's talk a little bit about some of the other items that are included in your report. As we talked about in the past, you're continuing to report your net pension and net OPEB liabilities. Remember, these are your proportionate share of the unfunded actuarial liabilities of the state retirement system and the state retiree health care plan. So it's important to remember that these are not direct liabilities of the district. And so they aren't liabilities that you're going to be expected to write a check to pay off. The liabilities have no direct impact on your cash flows, nor are they reflected in your fund level statements. The reason they're important though is because what does affect your operating budget and your cash flows is the employer contributions that you're required to make at the state mandated levels. Those rates have been increasing over several years now. You had a rate of 16.5% for the state retirement system for fiscal 22. That rate has again increased to 17.5% for fiscal 23, and it will increase again to 18.5% for fiscal 24, at which point we do expect it to hold still for the foreseeable future. But as I'm sure you know, those 1% increases have a significant effect on your budget. And so it is important that you are considering those as you're looking to the future and seeing what impact those will have for future years. The the employer contribution rate for the retiree healthcare plan is 6.25%. It has remained at that same level for fiscal 23, but future increases should be anticipated. Let's look at your capital assets. You had total capital assets of $1.7 billion for the year. That was an increase of $3.1 million as your total capital additions of $59 million exceeded your depreciation expense and net disposals. Some of the most significant additions during the current year were the completion of West Ashley Middle School, Hot Gap Middle School, Baptist Hill High School, and the Center for Advanced Studies at West Ashley High School. Looking at your long-term obligations, you had total long-term obligations outstanding of $531 million roughly as of June 30th. That was a decrease of $53.4 million from the prior year due to the principal payments made during fiscal 22. At June 30th, you had short-term bond anticipation notes outstanding of about 217 million. And those are reflected on your fund level statements since they will be repaid within the year. So let's talk about compliance. We did, of course, perform a single audit this year. We perform a single audit every year as it is required for all entities that have federal expenditures in excess of 750,000. This year, we looked at 3 different programs. We looked at Title I, ESSER, and Head Start, and I am thrilled to say no findings to report for any of those programs. In addition, we also are required to issue a second opinion on your financial statement audit. That is to describe our responsibilities in accordance with government auditing standards. And that is another area where if we had any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in your internal controls, if we were having to
Could you put the mic closer to you?
Oh,
You're
I'm
kinda
sorry.
going in and out.
If we were having to make any significant audit adjustments during the audit process, then those would need to be reported as findings in that second opinion. But again, no findings to report this year. So that really reflects highly on your finance team with all of the additional funding that's being received in recent years related to the pandemic relief. It is getting more and more complicated to keep everything in the proper reporting funds to make sure that all of the many compliance requirements that they deal with are done correctly. And so I really commend you and your team on the hard work that they've done. Also, in addition to the financial report, we issue a management letter each year, and that's primarily required communications from us to you and to management. We do also include any areas that we think are significant enough to be put in writing, but that aren't findings for the report. And so, as we mentioned last year, we do believe that the pupil activity funds have a higher level of inherent risk as you are collecting and receiving funds, throughout your schools. And so we do like you to just keep that in mind. I believe that the district has good internal controls and good policies and procedures in place related to your student activity funds, but it is important to understand that there is additional risk there that that is not going to be mitigated with your internal controls. So with that, I'll come to the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions from the board members? Dr. French?
I wanted to ask Julie, can we make sure that this presentation gets put in board docs because there are a few differences between that one and the one that's attached? And I just want to make sure we have the most up-to-date information. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Not a question, but Emily, thank you. We've enjoyed working with you.
Thank you.
And Shauna and Don, thank you very much for the hard work that y'all have done. It's been really a pleasure working with you guys, but I'm very proud of this report. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I'll acknowledge the work that Shauna and her team have done. So it's been incredible. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Green, and I just want to say the finance team is phenomenal. Great group of folks that are really committed to the district. So thank you to my team as well.
And I will say also, I've said this before. I'm so proud of you, and and I always had findings when I was the CFO.
I wasn't going to say that.
And also, on a serious note, the financial statements are required to be posted on the State Department of Education website at the end of this month. It's either 3rd November or 1 December. So we're on track to do that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8C.
Yes, ma'am. Fixed cost of ownership classroom modernization recap. And I'm proud to provide you a presentation with pictures. So it's the fun presentation. So Ms. Green suggested that we give you this presentation. It couldn't be more appropriate in your last meeting to give you an idea of what you all have approved the idea of kind of things that you guys have done and allowed us to execute with your budget approvals in the past. This is FY22, so this is a year ago. We began planning this program in the fall of 2020. You all approved it in February of 2021. And now we're in the final closeout of the financial side of it. This program is for repairs, renovations, and replacement. This slide is our scorecard with projects broken up across the different constituent districts. We have 14 program areas that represent these projects. Each program area has a distinct program manager, and they've done a phenomenal job in planning and executing their programs with your budget that you've provided. But 575 projects across those 14 program areas, just over $46 million total. First up, I've got several of the facility management slides. This provides a snapshot of their overall program, a little over $13 million. It goes from the top of schools to the below ground, inside and outside of our buildings. You can see a good representation of the work that's been done here with facilities management across the board. Next up are a few slides. We got scoreboard replacements before and after at Baptist Hill and St. John's, academic magnets, weight room renovations, typical of the work that's been done on the athletic side for this program. We also take care of our staff. In this case, at District 9, this is St. John's High School, what the trail used to look like. And we replace that, take care of the workforce that gets kids to school safely each and every day. Canopies, something that goes unsung as well until you're caught in the rain. These have to be hurricane resistant. So it isn't simply just putting up a couple of poles with a roof on it. Extensive design to make sure it can weather the storm. In this case, we installed a car rider canopy at Minnie Hughes in these pictures. Out in the lobby behind us, you remember the old vestibule on the left. Now we've got a much smaller and safer vestibule out there, freed up a lot of the space in that area for the security, improving our security posture with getting guests in and out of the boardroom. But another good example of construction that was taken care of with this budget. Playgrounds, which falls under facility management, we keep it separate to make sure we're putting the money into the playgrounds themselves, $1.35 million this year. Good before and after shots of Goodwin and Harborview. Our playgrounds are about a 10 to 15 year lifespan. We spend about $200,000 per playground. This not only takes care of new installation, but maintenance of existing playgrounds, installation of rubberized surfaces, maintenance of rubberized surfaces, and as you can see, the turf installation and maintenance as well in those after photos. Security and emergency management, $2.25 million. We've got our camera systems that require replacement. We're on about a 10-year life cycle, between $110,000 and $200,000 per system. Cameras, we've got 8,000 in the district that we keep track of, more than 2,000 electronic access control points. So a program that does require substantial funding. We've got radio communication at our schools. Good thing here, we've installed the lightning systems at all of our high school fields so that we can keep our fans and our players safe. When games, we've got foul weather coming in to detect lightning and allows them to shut down the game until the storm passes. IT, huge programs, technology upgrades, program management, devices. We also have software, which I couldn't show a good picture of software, but software program essentially consolidated by IT. That's a separate program as well. Good work done for both the infrastructure and in the classrooms. Media modernization, $1.2 million spent there. Not only takes care of both hard copy and digital library books, but all the devices that are used by our librarians to produce products, have our students produce products for the school. And we also, on the next slide, you can see furniture replacement in our media centers goes out of this program as well. We really work to line up that media modernization with facility management. So we do carpeting, do furniture, do painting. So whenever we upgrade a library, we're really working across our silos to get all that done at one place at one time. So you can see that one. We had Styles Point, we got Curio. On the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, this is the other than media center furniture, fixture equipment, over 500 requests were completed. This goes from teachers' desks to the front office furniture, to outdoor benches and bike racks, cafeteria furniture, across the board. Next couple of slides show some of the things that were paid for with furniture, fixtures, and other equipment. Fine arts, our orchestra equipment, our band equipment is replaced in this program. 9 schools received string instruments, 11 schools received band instruments under this program. Athletics, we start with football helmets and other safety equipment. We replace those and refurbish those first, and then we look at other needs of our high schools. And you can see the things that were done with this year's budget. It's about $250,000, $250,000. Career and technology education. This was bumped up by the board the last couple of years. We had 2 substantial projects, one at West Ashley High School, the other at Military Magnet. This program here completed the West Ashley project of replacing their culinary arts equipment, really completely refurbishing that space. And we're in the midst of the Military Magnet project right now. And the next slide shows some of the things that were done at West Ashley. Planning and real estate, they manage our auditoriums and our regional stadiums, upgrading of lighting and other equipment in those places, a little over $250,000 in this program. Transportation, this is taking care of our radios and our cameras in our district buses, and also pays for the activity buses. We got 6 new activity buses in 2022 in this program. Nutrition services, second year of this program was added to replace equipment in our cafeterias. On the far right, you can see new serving lines. Received 11 of those across 9 schools. And we did have to purchase vans. We have 2 vans in nutrition services now, and they help us transport workers that would not normally be able to drive across the county to get to schools where there are shortages. So it is a great program. It allows us to attract workers in the places that we have a hard time getting workers. And lastly, the first year of our nursing program, a little over $100,000 here. You can see the types of equipment that were purchased with the nursing funds, emergency bags, medication carts, and recovery cots, to name a few. So that closes out FY22. Again, I really appreciate the board's support for this program. You really made a difference in our schools. And I also want to thank our program managers and finance that manage this program. Great job by them.
Thank you, Mr. Barrow.
Yes, ma'am.
Do the board members have any questions?
No questions, but again, thank you to Jeff and his team for the outstanding work. It's nice to sit back and look at all of the work that you guys accomplished. So thank you so much.
Ms. Harvey?
Yeah, I don't have a question, but I'm gonna say I've been here for 8 years, so I make a quick comment. I wanted to say, one, to Shauna, as being on the board when we were in the hole, and lots of conversations about it. Thank you to Mr. Kennedy for that work. And also as somebody who worked on the first bond referendum campaign that was done in this community because our schools were in such bad shape, which by the way failed, but the second one passed. I've had the opportunity to work with Mr. Broy and his team for the past 8 years. Well, as long as you've been here. So I guess, and I've been here on the board 8 years, and it's just been fantastic work. And if you look at where we are from a maintenance, building, fixed cost of operations, technology, we have made so much progress in that time. And I really attribute that to your leadership. So thank you very much.
I'll follow up on that with Mr. Rory, Jeff. So no, really, it's great. I mean, urban school districts across the country, CCSD is the envy of many districts in terms of our facilities. So I think you've been here 7 or 8 years. So obviously you had a significant impact on this community. So thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. The next item is item 8D.
Madam Chairwoman, I motion to approve the projects on the attached list.
Second.
Dr. Fish, you have a question?
Yes, I do. I'm concerned about the new item that was added to the list after the special call meeting. It's item number 7, security and emergency management. So we haven't voted to approve this yet. We're gonna vote on that later in the meeting. And one thing that my understanding is, after conversation with Mr. Reidenbach, is that this system, we don't know how much staff is going to be needed to implement it. And so there's a possible plan to do pilot projects instead of implementing it to all the high schools at once. That's not necessarily a problem, but this item that we're being asked to approve would buy all of the equipment we would need for all high schools. And if we go through this project, the pilot, and find that this doesn't really work for us, then we'll have a lot of equipment that we don't need. And I'm just concerned that we may be making a decision to do something that doesn't ultimately meet the goal of safety, of improving safety. So I guess I would like to know whether or not we could have that item go back and have a little more study before we make a decision on it.
Well, Mr. Baroe or Mr. Reidenbach, do you have a response for Dr. French's question about why, if it's in pilot, we would purchase all the equipment?
So the board challenged us last month to see how much we could do with security improvements. And this was the item that, working with finance, fit the budget from a one-time execution perspective. It is something that can be effective. It is something that we wouldn't recommend it to be purchased if we didn't think it could work. But Dr. French her point is valid. It is something that we would be purchasing without knowing the exact labor cost to operate it. Now, I will say there are schools out there that manage these with very limited staffing. And then, we've looked at what we would like to have, and it does create a significant cost issue from the general operating fund perspective for labor. So, the point is valid. We've come up with what we think is the next item on the list that could be funded within the budget, and that's what was put forward.
But as a follow-up, it
Sure.
also seems that we received information in the board brief that there's a very mixed opinion from this high school principals about whether or not this would work well for them and whether or not they feel that their staff can handle it. And my impression is that these have to be manned all day. You can't just man them in the morning and the evening. There's students coming in and out of high schools all day and people coming in and out of
Right.
high schools all day.
So as an example of how that can be done, James Allen Charter High School has these devices, a similar version, and they have it set up in their front opening of their facility, and they've been able to figure out how to manage that for everybody that shows up at the school during the day. So it has been done by other schools with existing staffing. We would need to see how well that works across the district.
Ms. Darby and then Ms. Green.
So clarification, or this is the item, the 977 data?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, so my thought is, and I saw the feedback in the board docs, but if we're gonna implement this equipment, I would think it should be done across the board. It's certainly phasing it in, because we're not going to be able to do everybody at one time. I think in what the feedback we got from Mr. Broy is some of the schools were not sure yet exactly how they would implement it with the different, when they have multiple
Entrances.
ingress and egress, or however you say it. So I think those are all things that could be worked through. And I'd like to see us move forward with this project, knowing that there are going to be some kinks to work out at certain schools that have more doors than other schools. But I think we've already got an example at James Island, so I'd like to see us be able to move forward with it.
Ms. Green?
Ms. Barori, nothing has changed since we met on this last week, right? Other than it going back before audit and finance. My conversations with you and Michael have always indicated that we knew we were going to have to work through what the staffing situation would be. We knew we weren't going to be able to get the schools up and running the first day, but that's information that y'all knew you were going to have to work with, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ms. Hutter, does this replace the private company SRO?
No, it does not. No, ma'am.
I went through the metal detectors at James Allen Charter. It was very effective. I'll just put that comment on.
What were you doing?
Wait, really now? Visit. When we went on a school visit.
Any further questions?
Do you have an estimate of a range of ongoing expense? I mean, I was told a figure today that was multiple millions of dollars every year to staff these. So is that in comport with what you know?
Right. We had that in our October 10th presentation. And I believe, I know Mr. Reitenbach is probably standing behind me. It's my understanding that it was about 2.9 million is the worst case scenario. Correct, Mr. Reitenbach?
Yeah, that's what he was.
And we were extremely conservative with that number. That was the best case scenario. I mean, that was what if we had all the resources in the world, that's what we would want to do.
I just noted that in the meeting last Thursday that Ms. Coates actually brought this up, that this is a security job and none of our staff, our administrative staff, our teachers, our counselors, this is not part of their job. So it is concerning to suggest that any of them would do this job and that we wouldn't hire additional people who are devoted to this.
So I'll just say, I'll use an example. And again, Mr. Reidenbach can steer me in the right direction if I veer off course. But prior to this board approving the safety and the security and search team, the search team that we have now, our schools did the searches.
Right.
Our school staff did the searches in the
Okay.
schools. So the board approved buying the extra resources to be able to take that off their shoulders. So we've had instances where the schools have done things on their own, like related to security.
Do we have a motion? Do you have another question?
No, I'm good.
Do we have a
You've got
motion?
Well, I've made my motion and it stands.
It's second.
Okay, it's seconded. Oh, okay, it just, it's been a minute, so.
Okay.
Yes, I remember that. Mr. Reidenbach, I think, has a comment.
Notebook has arrived. Mr. Reidenbach's notebook has arrived.
The red notebook is here. So I will just to reinforce Mr. Burley's point, we do have administrators who are conducting searches in our schools every day. And as Ms. Harderick and others who visited James Allen Charter have likely seen, these weapons detector systems require very little interaction between the staff monitoring them and the students coming through, because it's a pretty, you don't have to divest of your materials coming through. If the machine goes off, the staff member would challenge the individual, hey, do you have anything in there that might have set it off? Oh yeah, I forgot my umbrella in there. Okay, let's take that out, walk back through the detector. If they don't alarm coming back through, then they proceed on in. It's only when they do alarm and don't identify anything that could be setting it off that an administrator particularly would step in to do a bag search, which administrators do now on a regular basis.
Thank you, Mr. Reidenbach.
Yes,
Board members, please cast your votes. Please make sure your vote's properly represented. All right, that item carries. We removed item 8E. So we'll go on to item 8F.
Information, Ms.
Okay.
Waters.
Okay. Item 8G. What, did you have anything else?
No, I was just gonna say unless somebody has some questions.
Sure, yes.
The other items under audit and finance, I think are all, no, there's an action item, so,
Yeah.
but the next three are.
Okay, so if there are no questions on 8G or 8H, we'll move on to item 8I.
Ms. Waters, I motion to approve the fiscal year 23 budget amendment, and Ms. Williams is here to answer any questions as to why we're doing this, if anybody has any.
Second.
Any questions for Ms. Williams? All right, did you get them? Okay, please cast your votes. That item carries.
Oh,
Dr. French,
my vote. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry.
you sure?
Yes, I am sure. I voted yes on that.
Okay. All right. Item 9A, the paper and pencil assessment waiver request.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the submission of the waiver to the State Department of Education to allow for pen and paper assessments.
Second. All right, moved by Ms. Coates. We had a dual second. Okay. Any questions? Any further questions? I know we talked about this last time. All right, please cast your votes. Dr. French? Okay. Please take a moment to review. All right, that item carries. Item 10A, policy JKA corporal punishment. Dr. French?
I want to make a motion, but first I just wanted to check in with Ms. Reese. The comment that did come in made a good point, and I had asked her to just check in with Ms. Simmons. Do you have any information you can share?
There's one word in that clause, serious, that may cause some questions down the road, but otherwise, the section is fine.
So if, to make life a little simpler for Julie, I'm trying to think of a way to make a motion that could ask the team to go back and look at that paragraph and make sure that
We can defer second
defer it?
reading to the next board meeting and allow them to present
I
a
think
clean
that might be
copy.
the best thing. What do you think? Okay, so I move to defer the policy JKA to the next regular board meeting so that staff may reexamine the revisions, particularly as involves restraints.
Very well. Second. Okay. Dr. French, could you restate?
Wayne, do
for-
we need to make a motion to do that? We just simply don't act on it, correct?
Okay,
Okay.
so we could just defer it. Okay,
All right. Thank you.
thank you so much.
So we'll move on to to item 11A. Is she good? No motion, no motion. Item 11A. Oh, okay.
I moved to approve the appointment of Mr. Casdell Singleton to the CEEFC Board of Directors.
Second.
Any questions, board members? All right, please cast your votes. All right, that item carries. Item 11B.
I move to approve engaging the services of a private security company to assign armed security officers at schools currently lacking a full-time school resource officer, SRO, due to law enforcement staffing constraints, and approve the allocation of $1.2 million in fund balance for the purchase of weapons detectors for all high schools and programs.
Second. All right, properly moved and seconded. Any questions? Further questions?
And this isn't a question as much as maybe a request. I think we're up to 3 items we've approved that have raised the bottom line of next year's budget already. And I would just caution that when you go to present the budget, which inevitably is going to require a tax increase, tie that back to this action. In other words, it says here, upon implementation, the weapons detection program will be assessed for further ongoing GOF. Make sure that ties back to, this is the increase in the budget because of the GOF related to what we've done here tonight. Just so the public and the new board can draw a direct connection.
Thank you, Ms. Coates. Any further? Okay. Please cast your votes. All right, please make sure your votes are properly reflected. That item carries. Mr. Kennedy has a comment to make.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ward. So I want to recognize Ms. Julie Erickson. The reason why I'm doing it this evening, we will do it more formally in January, but she's announced her retirement from the district. And so this is, she's worked with this board and many of you all that are on the board for years. And so I just wanted to do that publicly with this board and let you know that we will have something more formal in January when her retirement takes effect. So
Thank you.
Can we say we don't accept the resignation? What is going on?
I tried that.
I know. The next item, 13A, is our upcoming meetings. At 3:00 this Friday, we will have a special call board meeting to swear in the new board, as well as elect officers. And December 12th, we'll have a joint committee of the whole and regular board meeting. January 9th, committee of the whole, and January 23rd, the business meeting to follow. This is our last meeting together.
Best of luck to you.
Thank y'all so much. And a motion to adjourn.
So moved.